Start. Welcome to the Environmental Services Committee meeting, Wednesday, 5th of November 2025. We have some councillors joining us online too. So we'll go straight to apologies. Anybody? Yes, Councillor Hawkes is online, yeah. Councillor Coyle?
Councillor Colgan and Councillor Brown is running a little late, and Anthony's downstairs. Reception will be up in a few minutes.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Councillor McGrath online?
Councillor Adam Gannon, he might be there, but he's running a bit late.
Okay, thank you. If there's nobody else, any more apologies, I'll move on to, I've just decided that we have signed the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 8th of October. On to any declarations of interest. Nobody's indicating. Okay, so we'll move on straight on to Environmental and Place Directorate Reports 4.1 is to consider report on draft responses to DERA on the Fisheries, Water, Environmental Bill, Protection of Water and Environment. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Chair. So members, two consultation responses for your consideration tonight. Said the first of these that the Chair has just alluded to there, the Fisheries and Water Environment Bill, and specifically the Protection of the Water Environment consultation is being run by DERA, or published by DERA. The council powers were delegated for this draft response. The consultation, as you'll see, closes tomorrow. I suppose it's coming to ES at this stage because it was being reported at the Policy and Resources Committee meeting in October, and at that stage I think members felt that it would be an important consultation for the council to respond to rather than just to note it. And then the second consultation that we have in front of us tonight is for the production, storage, transport and use of hydrogen as a fuel, and that's a consultation published by the Department for the Economy, and it's looking at views and analysis of the barriers and potential solutions for the production, storage, transport and the use of hydrogen as a sustainable fuel. So members, moving on to section 2 of the cover paper, sets out some of the key issues in respect of the Fisheries and Water Environment consultation, and you'll be familiar with obviously the importance of good water quality and habitats in terms of their impact on fish stocks, human health, hygiene and overall well-being, and for us as a district, there are additional benefits for many of the businesses within this district in terms of water quality, impacting on their operational efficiency, product safety and regulatory compliance. And then we have the additional tourism importance within Fermanagh and Omagh district as well. And as we all know, poor water quality can also lead to costly disruptions, reputational damage and legal liabilities. Both the Audit Office, the Northern Ireland Audit Office and the Office for Environment Protection have recently published reports which make a number of recommendations in respect of water quality and setting out some of the statistics in the background in the context of environmental crime and waste crime and the impact that has on households and commercial and industrial production and construction. So in that regard, obviously a key consideration is enforcement, and this consultation also talks about the importance of effective enforcement and the importance that enforcement action should be consistent, proportionate, and ensure there are no ambiguities that might be exploited by anybody. And indeed, the council has been strenuous in advocating for that approach as recently as some of our recent meetings. And I think last night it came up as well about discharges into Lough Erne and writing to the appropriate relevant bodies. So the draft response as set out within Appendix 1 picks up on a lot of those issues. It responds to the various questions that have been posed in the consultation, and particularly the importance of proportionate feedback and the importance that legislation will safeguard and avoid any unintended and disproportionate and adverse impacts on older farmers or smaller farms, which we have a prevalence of within this community. And so just take an opportunity to thank members who had come back to me earlier today with some comments in that regard. In particular, I know Councillor Robinson had sent some comments through, which I believe are reflected in our responses at questions 2, 3 and 4 around proportionality and the importance of safeguarding the interests of smaller farms and the risk that there could be unintended adverse consequences for older farmers as well. And that proportionality where you have the worst offenders paying the highest fines and being subject to the greatest effects of laws and enforcement. Secondly, then Appendix 2 is it's looking at hydrogen as a sustainable fuel, and I know while hydrogen has been talked about as a fuel source for, I'm going to say, probably going back 20 and 30 years at this stage. In terms of practical application, it is still a relatively nascent technology in Northern Ireland, although we do have some firms, particularly there's a large firm up in Ballymena that have been producing hydrogen-powered industrial fleet that can, that operate within a particular context. And it is something that businesses within this district as well have also been exploring over the course of the last years. I know Monarch have been looking into that and doing a lot of investigation and working with other businesses in the Derrylin area. So from the council's point of view, we are particularly and uniquely placed to capitalise on the growth of a hydrogen economy, because of the latent or the untapped wind power within this district, and the opportunity to use that wind power to feed into turbines and to produce hydrogen, which can be used to produce heat and also to produce fuel sources. So we have reflected the uniqueness within this district in our response. I suppose broadly welcoming the response and the investigations that are being undertaken by the Department for the Economy, but so still caveat that it needs a lot more investment and needs a lot more support. I know there had been a recent call for investment, a call for projects at a UK level that was looking at hydrogen as a sustainable fuel, and I don't think there were any Northern Ireland projects that were funded as a result of that. So I mean, this is welcome that our own departments are now starting to look into this and say welcome the opportunity to respond to it. It will play an important part in terms of the council's progress towards net zero, and an important factor in terms of Northern Ireland's progress towards net zero at 2050 as defined in the legislation at the minute. So again, members, the draft response is set out in Appendix 2, and the recommendations in the paper at Section 8 that denote the contents of the report and consider and approve Appendices 1 and 2 are submitted in advance of the closing dates, and say note in particular that you have delegated powers from Council for the water quality consultation.
Okay, thank you, John. Some people indicating to come in here. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. What about the road situation, John, and the water quality? Rubber and oil coming off the roads into the water stream. What way are they going to tackle that now? And the salt to be put on the road in the winter time. What way are they going to tackle all that stuff for the water quality? That needs to be mentioned in it as well, because you have to start at the root problem first instead of starting working back. You need to start and work in. I was watching the programme one night to do with pollution, and 80% of the oceans is full of rubber coming off tyres, 80%. I thought that was an awful figure to be coming out with, but that needs to be addressed as well. The other thing needs to be addressed, whenever there comes a flood or heavy rain, the rivers flood the land, and the amount of waste that comes down, bottles, plastic bags, all different types of rubbish, be washed onto the farmer's land. That needs to be addressed as well. That needs to also had to be coming from the sides of the road, I presume, that litter and that stuff, kind of stuff coming in that way. So I think they need to be addressed as well, somehow or another, in this water quality thing.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Do you want?
You're happy enough I'd propose it?
You're proposing, Councillor Robinson, thank you. And
Them can be added.
okay, can I bring in Councillor McClachary?
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'm happy to second Councillor Robinson's proposals, and I believe he's seconding the paper with that included. I welcome the the comments on the hydrogen one. That was part of the selling point of the Mid-Southwest growth. All right. I know that a local firm that they have engaged in a scheme with Queen's University and a commercial firm to look at ways of generating low carbon hydrogen in the area, and then hopefully that would lead to the college developing a system. So it's key to this area that we do push ahead with this. So happy to second both papers. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Okay, I don't see anyone else indicating, so that's been proposed and seconded. Has everybody agreed? Okay, so we'll move on now to the Estates Matters paper B. John again, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, the monthly Estates Matters report. So, again, as you'd expect, a number of matters for decision and some information for noting. The first matter for decision is in respect of North Fermanagh Valley Park at Letterboy Road in Kesh. Ederney Community Development Trust currently holds a nominal 21-year lease of lands at that location, North Fermanagh Valley Park, up until September 2038. The Kesh Development Association have secured funding from Peace Plus and have proposed that they would take over the lease. This is an agreement between the two groups. The Kesh Development Association are, however, looking for a larger footprint of land, and the council has already declared, I think it was just last month, we had declared a parcel of land as surplus between the existing North Fermanagh Valley Park and the Household Recycling Centre as you're coming in to Kesh. So the lands they're owned by the council, they are surplus, and Kesh Development Association have requested that additional parcel of land would be included in an extended lease arrangement. They've also asked for a longer term lease, recognising the development proposals that they have on the site. So it's recommended that the council accept the request from Ederney Community Development Trust to surrender its remaining leasehold interest in the lands, and that the request from Kesh Development Association for the 99-year nominal rental lease of the extended area is also accepted. We will need to get a professional valuation, and if necessary, looking at the finances and what comes out of that valuation, then we would seek approval from the Department for Communities, Local Government and Housing Division for a less than market value leasing arrangement on the basis of the community benefit that would accrue from the proposed use of that site following the redevelopment. Second matter then is in respect of Grange Park in Omagh, and a request from DFI to facilitate the installation of a temporary footpath in Grange Park. Members may have noticed last night there continues to be extensive work going on along the boundary of the Grange Park up the Lake Orchan Road and Mountjoy Road. Those works are expected to go on at least until the end of May 2026 and potentially through into the summertime. So it's recommended that the site and DFI therefore would like to put in a temporary footpath into the boundary of the council's park area. So it's recommended a works licence be entered into, subject to assessment of the licence fee by LPS and payment of the council's reasonable legal and agent fees. Next item then is NIE have requested permission to lay underground cabling at lands at Drumshane and Lisnarrick. So it's recommended the way leave agreement be entered into, and again receive an annual payment as per standard way leave payment schedule. And finally, NIE has also requested permission to install a pole at lands on Enniskillen Road in Irvinstown at the site of the Household Recycling Centre. And again, it's recommended that a way leave agreement be entered into and the council receive annual payment as per the standard payment schedule. A number of requests, one request for the installation of a memorial bench and plaque at the Round O. The proposed wording complies with the council policy, and it's also requested that the bench be painted red to represent the British Heart Foundation, and it's recommended that the application be approved subject to the receipt of a fee of £595. Other uses of council property Enniskillen Royal Grammar School request for permission to use the car park at the Round O for the Four Headed Rivers rowing race on the 8th of November. Fermanagh Orienteers requested permission to use Gorchin Glen Forest Park on the 22nd of November. And Oma Motor Club requested permission to use Crocknagrally, Doon, Jenkin and Mullifad for the rescheduled 5 Mile Town Rally, again to take place on the 22nd of November, and as per the terms set out within the paper. And then finally, one request for the use, a retrospective use of Marble Arch Caves on the 29th of October and the 4th of November by Jago Communications for tourism filming. And then said just some items for information. One is in respect of the lands at Gorchin Village. They've requested council permission as the landlord to implement some energy saving measures, and that confirmation has been provided to them as would be appropriate for the council to consent to them. And then a number of documents setting out at section 3.2 as well. So members, the recommendations set out at section 9 that the council approves 9.11 through to 9.17, and then that the council notes items 9.28 and 9.29.
Thank you, John. And Councillor McCloughery.
Thank you, Chair. On the North Fermanagh Valley Park, I've stopped in the street and spoken to the Chair of Case Development Association, and had a few concerns that he wished me to raise tonight. At the moment, whilst Adderley Community Development Trust have ownership, the council does carry out maintenance and provide insurance. KDA are looking to take the site on, and as part of the SEUB with the Three Village thing, which is millions of pounds, which will result in the facilities being enhanced. But they are worried that at the moment when they take on the site, there is no revenue stream. So they're not in a position, they don't really have a fundraising way themselves. It's whatever they can collect or whatever they can raise, but they don't have any way of charging anybody who uses the facility. And that means that they're not in a position to provide insurance on the site either. So they were hoping that the council would continue for another 4 years, which would then give them a chance to see how the site develops and to work out how they would charge the prospective users, because they obviously need to be charging them, and then create a revenue stream which would then cover those costs. So I'm wondering, is that something that can be looked at? And then on 3.6 is the Councillor Warrington has asked me to inquire, is there a time limit of when the lands would be satisfactorily reinstated for the rally at Crockin, Nagrally, Doon, Jenkin and Mullifad Forest, and I hope that's right, and apologies if it's not. It's just that he's a few people have raised that this is an area of beauty, and if it's left for a while, whilst is there a time limit on how quickly and I know they're volunteers, and they're obviously trying to save money as well as are many other organisations. So I'm just wondering, is there a time limit on how quickly they should or could reinstate the ground after the rallying? And he totally appreciates that rallying, there's a certain way that cars behave and it causes a certain type of damage, and it can be fixed, but it does take time. Other than that, then I have no issues with any of the other, and I'm quite happy to propose.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Rest of those.
John, do you want to come back on for them?
So if I take just the second point first of all, there is a time frame. I don't have a copy of the standard bond in front of me, but I think there is a time frame. But that's also part of the reason why we request a £750 bond. That if the works aren't done by the promoter within that time frame, then the council has that bond, and we can cause the works to be done without any cost to the council. So, just in terms of the second point, there is a time frame. I just don't have, say, a copy of the bond to hand, and it's a standard that has been enforced for many years, even before the forest areas came across to the council for recreational use. On the On the first point, Cash Development Association have written to the council, and I'm aware of the request from the group. I think what we have replied to them or said is that we've undertaken to go back to them and to look into the proposal. I think just two notes of caution that I was saying is, one, as the members referenced and it's referenced in the report, the group have secured funding for significant development of the site. In the absence, and I don't have just the detail of that development proposal here at the minute. So I think that we would be loath to undertake any commitment to maintenance in the absence of knowing what the development was. And certainly, as I understand it, the funding from Pace Plus must be used for 2029. So, and at that point, they will have to instruct or appoint a contractor to go in to do the works. And I think it wouldn't be reasonable that the council would be undertaking maintenance on a site that's then controlled by the contractor. So I think the principle about working with the group to come to an accommodation is something that we are investigating. I think it's the issue is around the time and what the cutoff is. I know the group had suggested to the member and to the officers 2029. I think certainly we need to just do a bit more work with them on that.
Okay, I'm going to bring Councillor McGrath in online here. He had his hand up there for quite a while. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy enough to second the proposal. And just if I could ask John for an update. I see there's orienteering happening in the Gortin Glens in November. And will the scenic drive and the horse trails be open? Is there any update on that, John? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank the member. The scenic drive has remained closed, as you know, following Storm Amy and some trees that were down. I was discussing this with the staff, the parks manager just today. So I understand there is some additional clearance to be done. We're hoping to get the street sweeper out to go around the route in the coming days. So imminently, to reinstate it. I know just because of a lot of the debris that had accumulated over the scenic drive as a result of it not being open. It's just there's some additional work that we need to do to make sure that it is safe for cars and for vehicles when they're travelling around it. I don't have an update on the horse trails, but obviously they will take the users into some of the most remote parts of the forest. So you'll understand they have also been the areas of the forest park that has taken us longest to get to in terms of trail clearance and in terms of the inspections have been done, but just in terms of any clearance of felled trees that are in the forest park.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you, John. I'll bring in Councillor Gallen.
Thank you, Chair, and again, my apologies for being late in. Just want to briefly touch on the North Fermanagh Valley Park issue there. I think John's raised some really good points. It's a common thing from various, in particular, sports clubs, but obviously the Cash Development Association in this case about when they're taking on facilities, maintenance and insurance, especially a case here when we're talking about a 99-year lease. It needs to be a sustainable model. So I think if we can work with them to give them that time, it's a great facility. I do remember I actually took the first ever coaching session on it at the grand opening at the opening of the park. It's a fantastic facility, and further development of it and seeing that increased use will be brilliant. So I'm happy to support the proposals, and obviously thanks to Councillor McLaughlin for raising those important issues.
Okay, Councillor Gallen, and I'll bring Councillor Maguire in next.
I'll go, Margaret Carley. Just a question on 3.2 on the sealing of documents. Part 1 and Part 2, there, Section 76 planning agreements. First question would be, is there any conflict there with members of the planning committee in agreeing this issue? And am I right in saying that this is something new that has come to the committee? Has anyone an explanation? And if they've come before, I haven't paid them as much attention as I have tonight.
So if I can do it again, I'll answer the second part because it's easier. No, sealing the documents of this nature will come to the council on a regular basis. If you remember, I think it was 2 months ago, there was a list of about 70 sealing of documents. So it's every legal document that the council signs or puts its seal onto will come before this committee, but it's for information. And that's informing also then my response to the first question you've asked is, I don't believe there's a conflict because these are decisions that have already been taken by council and approved and ratified through by planning committee and then ratified through council. So this is simply the end of the process in terms of the outworking of the planning decisions and the decisions of council.
Similar to a PAN coming to a committee, it's for information as opposed to anything else. And I did do a bit of research there, and it is on the back of our local development plan. It says that more are expected to come to councils in the future so it's probably the fact that we have our local development plan already in place, maybe. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anybody else indicating, then it's been proposed and seconded, so is everybody agreed? Yeah, we'll move on then. So the next part is the community and wellbeing, consider report on street naming and numbering, dual language paper C. Now, this is all straightforward. All of the information is there in the report. So unless anybody has any comments to come in on or anything to comment, can I assume that everybody's, no, don't. Councillor McLaughlin would like to come in? No problem.
I'd like to register my normal disdain and objections, but I'll also query, looking at this here, I see Ardtermon, which is in Carrickmore, for those that don't know. Now, for me, not being a Gaeilgeoir, but looking at that, I can tell that's in Irish. So I'm wondering who actually proposed it. And whilst I'm not looking for it, and I have an interest in town lands, I think it means high safe place or high sanctuary. Maybe some of the Gaeilgeoirs can come back with that. But I'm not looking at that, but I'm just wondering, why did we waste officers' time getting a sign translated into Irish that already was in Irish? It seems quite ridiculous. And I think it's time we totally reviewed this policy.
Okay, well, I think we have agreed in the last meeting that we are going to be undertaking a review because it is around that time. I'll bring Councillor Maguire in.
I'm going to Margaret Carley, and I'm happy enough to propose the recommendations. Thank you. Good Margaret.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Little.
Good Margaret, Chair. Just like to note Councillor McLaughlin's comments with the need to review the policy. He could be right. We do need to review the policy because I think a lot of my constituents are voicing frustration that it's too slow, that the rollout is inefficient and ineffective. So maybe we could look at it and try and increase that number from, I see we have 14 place names here today. So if we could look at a process of maybe getting it up to 30 or 40.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Robinson.
And we'll not be supporting it as a group.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Declining.
Right, okay, sorry, I just didn't hear you there. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Mercado.
I don't know whether Councillor Little second proposal. If he hasn't, I will. And when we were on about signage and stuff like that there, I know this is not to do with this here tonight, but I'd like to congratulate the Derrylin firm who deal with signage. I'll not name the firm, but secured a nearly 3 million project to replace signs down south in the Sligo, Leitrim and Donegal area. And I just throw it to the top table, not yourself, Keir, but the boys beside you there. Well, this firm, I wonder, would they ever, in an equation, if things had to be speeded up a wee bit, whatever, would they be in mention to get a wee stab at, maybe if, as Councillor Little was saying, to increase it to 30 or 40, because I know there's in around the Air and West for the Kinolly there in Timor, I have a lot of names in there for dual language, and there's a lot of interested people saying when are they coming out and a whole lot like there. But just to note, I'd like to congratulate that firm in Derrylin for actually securing that contract. It's a massive boost for the area, and it'll create a lot of jobs and income in the Derrylin, Timor, Kinolly area. Gura Margaret, thank you.
Okay, Councillor I don't know if you want to come back on that, John, just quickly.
But it's just the note, Chair, that I suppose any of our procurements will be publicly advertised. So, any company that is able to provide the service is entitled to tender for that service. We are currently in contract with the provider, but as I said, we always welcome a competitive tendering process to ensure most advantageous tender at the end of the process.
Okay, thank you, Shed. Can I just confirm that, Rory, did you second that? Yeah, okay. So that's been proposed and seconded. Note the dissent of the DUP and the UP, but besides that, is everybody else agreed? Okay, good. So we'll move on then to Environmental and Place Directorate reports, and it's the waste management statistics. So it's back over to you again, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, this is a quarterly statistical bulletin published by Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. Sets out the key waste and recycling measurements for all district councils, waste management groups in Northern Ireland. You'll be familiar with the various appendices that are attached. The municipal waste report for Q1, the period April to 30th of June. 2025-26, an infographic that sets out 4 key metrics for waste collection at a Northern Ireland level, and then a hyperlink that's included within your report, which is through to the waste data tables. So it's just key points to note for Mananoma that the total waste collected is in keeping with the population within the council and within the council area, and that's evident in all 11 district council areas. The DARE report notes that overall recycling performance is subject to seasonal variation, and we see that within this district as we do in all other councils. The council's overall household recycling rate in Q1 had increased to 49.7%, and that's an increase from 48.1% at the same time last year. And in relation to mixed dry recycling, the blue bin that people have across the district, we have the third highest rate in Northern Ireland, and something that certainly as a council area that we should be justly proud of. As a result of the closure of Dramee landfill in November 2024, we are seeing then an increase in energy from waste, and indeed the increase in overall recycling is as a result of the secondary recycled capture that arises from the treatment process of that residual waste. So I said, just I suppose the final then corollary from that is because we are no longer landfilling, we've had the largest decrease in terms of landfill waste going to council compared to the same period year on year, from 34.4% last year down to 12.6% in Q1, and we expect to see that percentage decreasing below 10% in line with the statutory targets over the coming quarters and throughout this financial year. So members, the recommendation is the council notes the contents of the report.
Okay, thank you, John. Can I get a proposer? Councillor Brown and seconder, Councillor Brough, thank you. So we'll move on then to an update report on the household recycling centres, paper E, and John, over to you again.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members, this report for information, and it's really on the work that Council's taken forward to improve health and safety arrangements across the network of household recycling centres within the district. The paper sets out a number of certainly the legislative background in terms of the council's responsibilities in terms of health and safety, and then also the responsibility and the legislative framework that governs and legislates waste and recycling operations. I've already referenced in the previous paper the closure of Dramee landfill, and again how that has helped the council to make significant progress towards its landfill targets and increased household targets, and reference of highlighted the other proposals that council's taken forward as a result of extended producer responsibility funding to roll out brown bins across the whole district. household recycling centres are an important part of the council's overall waste and recycling operations, and health and safety is paramount within that respect. Over the last 12 months, we have taken on board feedback from the Health and Safety Executive of Northern Ireland, who have been out and inspected all of their HRCs. We've reviewed good practice arrangements in HRCs operated in other district councils, and we've also importantly listened to the feedback from members, from residents, from staff on the importance of consistent health and safety arrangements in all of our household recycling centres. The report then goes on to set out some of the improvements to health and safety that we will be implementing in the short, medium and in the longer term. Particularly in the short term, what we're looking at is how we can remove risks within sites where possible, and draw attention to staff, contractors and service users, and that's for things like enhanced and clearer signage, raising awareness for the education and awareness projects about better recycling habits. And again, certainly our staff and users of our household recycling centres continually testify to the importance of staff engaging with them whenever they come to those household recycling centres, and we'll be working with staff over the coming months and years in that regard. We're also then looking at addressing through that engagement with staff and residents a number of legacy terms and conditions matters, which you'll appreciate we wouldn't go into in this, but it's part of the overall investment and engagement with our staff. Looking at some more medium term solutions around new barrier systems, so that vehicle and pedestrian segregation has been identified as one of the key hazards within household recycling centres. So if we're able to manage the flow of traffic in and around those sites, then that will help in that regard as well. So again, we've been progressing work in that respect, and we'll be looking to engage with other statutory bodies as required. And then I suppose laterally, in probably the topic that came to dominate a lot of the conversation earlier this year was around the booking system, and we've referenced there that the booking systems are recognised by HSENI and other NGO bodies such as RAP as a key health and safety measure. We're also taking on board the very helpful feedback from members at the workshop back in September, that any booking system when it's introduced down the line would need to be as simple as possible for anybody to use, would have the provision of telephone booking arrangements, no restrictions on the number of visits that residents can make to household recycling centres. It's about retaining pedestrian access, so better recycling behaviours, and then obviously the importance that members talked of, early and effective engagement with residents in advance of any implementation of a booking system. But certainly at this point in time, what we're looking at is short, medium term signage, staffing and barrier systems, and then it'll be whenever we review the effectiveness of all of those that we'll look to see how do we progress a booking system, taking on board all of the feedback, but we don't see a booking system as being anything that's imminent. We have our household recycling centres operating at the minute, and some of them working very effectively with recycling rates of close to 80% as it is, and we want to build on that positive base.
Okay, thank you, John. I'll bring in Councillor Elliott.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to note the report. I suppose, would it be possible just for the Director possibly to bring me up to speed on, obviously I'm relatively new, but one of the main issues I've got so far is in relation to the recycling centre in Lisbon, and just if could possibly get an update on where things sit with that at the minute as well. Thank you.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I think when we'd last discussed Lisbon Law earlier this year, with undertaking that we would bring a report back to committee. There was further work to be done in terms of work looking at what the costs would be around Lisbon Law, but it remains closed. We're coming up on a year now from it being closed, and it's recycling performance across the district and across the household recycling centres has not declined or been adversely impacted over the last 12 months, but we will be bringing a report back to members as had been requested.
Thank you, John. Councillor Coyle?
Thanks, Chair, and I'm happy to second. And I just wanted to point out, I suppose it was the Health and Safety Executive for NI that launched these inspections. And I believe it was because of an accident or maybe even a death in one with a lorry, and that's why these are taking place. Is that right, John?
Yeah, workplace transport is recognised as one of the greatest risks, and so vehicle and pedestrian segregation and the risks around vehicle movements within household recycling centres, within any waste and recycling operation, and then more generally even within the haulage industry and within any place, quarries, factories where you will have heavy machinery moving, is a particular focus for HSENI. It's a campaign that it has been borne out as you say, arising from a number of fatalities, unfortunately, over a number of years. And in particular, there had been one in a household recycling centre in another council area, and again other fatalities within the waste industry in Northern Ireland, again arising from the movement of heavy waste and recycling vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Chair. Not too sure if that was seconded or not.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, thank
Well, I suppose it's good to see that we're making some progress on this. I suppose we need to make sure that we do get it right. I know that you talked there about there being medium term versus longer term sort of, so there's a multiple steps in this process, and we're going to take them. What's the sort of timescales for, let's say, the introduction of safety measures at some of those recycling centres in terms of barriers? What would be the sort of timescale for that? And then what would be the sort of timescale for the booking system itself? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. We'll be going through, or we are progressing through design, planning considerations, and then there'll be procurement process, construction. So we would anticipate barriers being in situ in middle of 2026, and certainly all of those barrier systems to be operational where they are appropriate, where they're required, by this time next year. Anticipate by the start of Q3, so by September 2026, we'd want to then allow time for the impact and the import of those arrangements on health and safety arrangements to bed in, for us to review and monitor those, as you would do with any good project management, and that's again aligned with the signage improvements on our own staff and engagements. So I think it's safe to say we're talking it'll be into 2027, well into 2027. I think it would be I would be loath to put a definitive date on it, because I say we do need to review efficiency and effectiveness, and then we'd want to bring a report back to members on the outworking of that.
Okay, thank you, John. Councillor Gannon?
Thank you, Chair. And it's just to make comment on the online booking system. Obviously, when we had that September workshop, I think it would be fair to say there was significant concerns from every party grouping and representative in the chamber regarding how it was presented then. I do appreciate the move here to do some of the measures and see how they take impact first. And of course, there's a significant length of time. We're talking two years here, potentially, before a report's brought for the effectiveness. So there'd be no final decision on implementation of a booking system until 2027, by the sounds of it. I do think there's this obviously pedestrian access is being talked about. I don't know about others in the chamber, but I don't know how many people actually access our household recycling centres on foot. Personally, I know no one who does. There may be someone, but going by the location of most of them, it's not really an option. So I don't know if that's as big a concern as it is being it's kind of hinted at that it's a concern there as well. I do think, as well as that, I'd be interested in HSENI's actual wording on the impact and, in their view, the necessity of online booking systems. Would we be able to see about getting that at some stage? There's obviously no rush on it, but at some stage to see what is HSENI's actual position on it. What do they actually say word for word? Because I'd be interested in seeing that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Gunn, is there anything you want to come back on there, John, just quickly?
No, so it's just to say that the. Sorry, I've drawn blank. Sorry, we'll come back to you in terms of the HSE position in respect of booking systems and the effectiveness in terms of health and safety. Sorry, there was something else.
Access.
Oh, pedestrian access. Sorry. Yeah, we have a number of smaller sites. I think it's fair to say that in the majority of sites, most access would be vehicle access, but certainly I know it was a concern that was raised by some members that in some of our smaller sites that the pedestrian access would be, is a feature and that would want to retain that. So that is something that we have taken on board, and we would be keen to try and maintain the service provision to the same high standard it is at the minute, and to build on that high performance. Say we have 60% through to almost 80%, so we want to bring as many as we can up towards that 80%.
Okay, thanks, John. Councillor Coyle, do you want to come back in?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I just think, going forward, I think we need to be really mindful of the language that we're using for it, because I think when we're saying like an online system, anybody who's not online starts to panic, and that's where the scaremongering and all that comes in. It's a booking system that can be done in person, over the phone or online, and I think, that's how we need to promote it. But it was all, the whole scaremongering stuff was around the online, and as somebody who's a regular user of recycling centres, especially in Newtown would be one of the smaller ones that I use. I know they're probably a smaller one even than that. And then a Skillen and Irvinstown. But I have to say, in my 50 odd years of using them, I've never seen anybody walking in. So, for the odd person that might be, but it certainly wasn't one of the main concerns. But I think we just need to be, have a proper campaign or a proper information out to the public about how it's progressing and kind of the timescale, and just use maybe better language than what we did originally.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. I agree with that. I think the online, specific word online, did put a lot of misinformation out there, and I think it, as you said, it is a booking system, and there are different ways that you can book it. But if nobody else is indicating to come in and it's been proposed and seconded, is everybody agreed to move on? Okay, so next is another report for yourself, John, paper F.
Thank you, members. Just one item in this, and it's just for information, but it's important to celebrate good news, and I think we do have some good news in terms of the council's continued performance in the Best Kept Awards. Omagh and Enniskillen have always traditionally done very well in the Best Kept Awards, winning a lot of the times in the large and medium-sized towns, and again this year coming as runners-up. But I suppose in particular just to recognise the success of Dromore, which was recognised at the recent awards event in Kirkstown as the most improved town and village, and certainly the judging panel then in announcing that award also announced a second award, and it was recognising the work that's been done by an individual, Mary McCoy, who's involved with Dromore 2000 and the Dromore Health and Wellbeing Group, and driving a lot of the activity within Dromore Village, and she was recognised with the Community Hero Award. So members, just as for information, so just a recommendation that you note the contents or the update in respect of Best Kept 2025.
Thank you, John. And it is nice to get good news now and again. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, just to repeat what you just said there, that this is good news, and just to pay tribute to all the people who are putting time and effort into making our towns and villages look good and clean and tidy, and clearly that has been recognised. So again, I want to just pay tribute to them. Thank you.
Are you happy to propose it, Councillor? And can I get a seconder? Councillor Robinson, thank you. Right, moving on then to, this is a building control and licensing report. This is actually quite a short report, so Unless anybody wants to specifically come in on any of these issues, can I, you're happy to propose, Councillor Robinson? Can I get a seconder? Councillor McArdle? Everybody happy? Everybody agreed? Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Maguire.
You caught me on the hop there, Chair. Good
Sorry.
morning. Thank you. No, again, I think it's worth mentioning on the dog report again, which I usually do flag up when I see it. I see 8 attacks on people. And again, in light of the news a few days ago, I believe it was in Wales, where a 9-month-old baby was mauled by a dog to death, which is another tragedy. And I do continue to emphasise that whereas people do advocate we're such a great dog-loving area, etc., I do like to remind people that there are people out there that are not comfortable around dogs. There is an onus on the dog owners to make sure they're under control, especially around young children, as was tragically outlaid to us this week. So I do think it's worthy of making these remarks every now and again when I get the opportunity, Chair. Guramagan. And again, thanks to all our conscientious dog owners that do keep them on leads, and the majority of people do. But again, one slip and you have a tragedy. That's my emphasis. Guramagan, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm a dog lover, but I actually agree 100% with Tommy. So I'm just going to ask, there was, in 3 months, there was 8 attacks. That seems quite a lot. And it was over the summer months, the summer holidays, I noticed as well. 1 control condition, what exactly does that mean? And 2 fixed penalties. So, the dog attacks on a person, is that a physical attack on, they have to literally nip them, and so nobody's gone to court for it. I'm just wondering, when there's dogs attacked on, but what does that actually mean? Is it the dogs even growling or scaring them? Is that classed as an attack? Or, so how serious would them 8 be, and only 3? I'm presuming the other 5, maybe you didn't know the owner, or how are people getting away with it if you did know the owner?
Okay. I'll bring John Boyle in to get some clarification.
Because I think it is a serious thing, and I'm not afraid of dogs, but I do know, in fairness to Tommy, when I bring my dog along, he's not afraid of my dog now, but it's still there. So
Yeah.
it
is, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and it is a very serious matter. And I take what Councillor Maguire said in relation to responsible dog ownership is what it all comes down to. When you're in a public space, having your dog on a lead. There are a range of offences that make up the dog attacks on persons. It could be growling, it could be nipping, or whatever. What we find in a lot of cases, though, is that we receive a complaint or whatever. The person who has made that complaint sometimes withdraws that complaint when we go to investigate it. So whilst we have received 8 complaints, it may be that it hasn't been taken forward for an investigation. Where we find that an offence has been committed, there are a range of functions which are of ability for the council to do things. One is control conditions, fixed penalties, ultimately, going to court is the ultimate, depending on the severity of the offence itself. A control condition will be normally for a dog owner is that you must keep your dog on a lead when it is in a public place. That will be a control condition. And if there is such a thing that is contravened at any time in the future, and the dog wardens would be looking for that, then there will be a more serious offence, which will normally end up in court for the person. But certainly, and I think it is something because of the number of dog attacks on persons. I think it is something that we need to consider in the run-up to Christmas, especially a campaign in order for responsible dog ownership. And I think that is one thing which the figures have highlighted to myself, in relation to a PR campaign in relation to it.
Okay, thank you, John. There's nobody else indicating. Councillor Robinson proposed are you still happy to propose and Councillor McCarthy to second that report? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on then to just a piece of correspondence. Over to you,
Yeah,
John.
thank you. Chair, just one piece of correspondence you say from DFA Roads, and it's advising that they intend to revoke the de-restriction on the Doon Road out of Temple, the Temple Road running into the Doon Road, which is currently a 30 miles per hour speed limit, and they're going to de-restrict that to 40 miles per hour out to Gardeners Cross Road. So just a proposal to note in second.
Okay, Councillor Elliott, can I get a seconder? Councillor Crawford, thank you. Okay. We'll move on then to
Second to win the comp.
no, I've got an AOB.
Oh, you should AOB, sorry.
Sorry, I did have a request from Councillor Hawkes for an item on any other business. Do you want to come in, Councillor Hawkes, on that issue?
Thank you, Chair. It's just that several people have actually contacted me from the Drumquan area, believe it or not. And when they're travelling from Castlederg to Drumquan, the actual sign, which obviously depicts Drumquan, and they are twinned with a town in France, apparently, that has blown away in a previous storm. And I've been asked several times, and you know about it, and they were just wondering when it would be replaced. I'm sure it has been picked up on and noticed, but would there be any update on when that would be replaced? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the member. I suppose just to advise, yes, we are aware of it. It was reported to us back in the summertime, so officers are investigating it and looking into it. I don't have an update in the time. I was trying to get an update actually on signage installations earlier today, but I just wasn't able to get speaking to the officer that's dealing with it. But it is in hand, so we are investigating it, and we'll be making reinstallations, as soon as we can, whenever we've identified the responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I actually forgot to notify you, just slipped into my head there. I was hoping to get an update on the cemeteries, because we had a discussion a couple of months ago about issues with enforcing the regulations. So just wondering if we can get an update tonight or next month or some stage, just to keep it on the agenda if we can. Thank you.
Okay, all right, John.
Yeah, I think if the member, we had agreed, or members had resolved that we would convene a workshop with members to look at cemetery rules and regulations more generally. So we have a number of diary dates on hold, and we're just looking to confirm those arrangements. And if we can, we will aim to get that done this side of Christmas.
Okay, thanks, John. So if there's no more any other business items, can I get a proposer and seconder? Councillor Feely, Councillor Robinson, sorry, to go into confidential. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And so all that's left then is to go to John for just a quick summary of what was discussed in confidential.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So while in confidential business, members considered a report on an estate matter and approved the recommendation set out within the report.
Thank you, John. Can I get proposer and seconder again? Councillor Brough and Councillor Brown. Okay, if that's all the items dealt with, then that's the end of the meeting. Thank you, everybody.